But you have interesting questions on Tilopa.
Oh, yes.
So you said here that consciousness flows like water where it can. This is what it is. And so in our current times, modern times, people or our systems maybe, if you will, they try to direct this flow to satisfy their purpose. Because let's say if you mind your own flow, you're flowing in a certain direction. Maybe you're keen on evolution, peace, you're living in alignment. Now, the external reality will constantly try to drag you out of this alignment because your flow is internal. When you're focused within, when you're in your body, your flow is internal. Now, anything you hear, anything you see drags your attention outwards. So, and that outflow of your awareness is necessary for the system to be supported one way or the other. Your emotional, your conscious energy is needed there. So then there are other aspects. You say, I watch my body reactions to whatever, whomever, and let go. When certain reactions are invoked in the body, you know, it means that for a second you're connected to that pool, to that frequency. And yes, if you're aware, if you're able to notice and recognize it as a way you drain yourself or as a way your energy leaks outwards, you may instantly prevent it by refocusing, focusing back on yourself, bringing back your focus within your own being, into your own body and being there. So this way you prevent the possession of other forms of information or emotions from the outside. Well, the outside, you may say, it's not really outside, it's a collective. From the collective existence, collective pool of information, so you prevent it. And you close your doors.
Yeah.
You close your emotional, mental, and physical doors. And this way, you may say that you are the sole occupant of your body. Otherwise, the majority of the people are not sole occupants of their bodies. They are the hubs of different types of frequencies and energies from the collective, different emotions, their parents' emotions, their friends' emotions, that information that prevails in the society. They choose to be a part of this and that. And so they're dragged into the projected reality, and their existence is in bits and pieces. So they are actually possessed, and that's why they can never perceive contentment and wholesomeness, because wholesomeness is when I am solely occupying my body, I'm aware of myself in this body, so I am whole and complete. I don't need to look for anything from the outside, yet the outside reality is just there to support my existence to a degree when necessary. The majority of people just leave their conscious energy outside. They are constantly in this process of losing themselves, defragmenting themselves bit by bit. Yeah. And so when it's with time, when they're children, they don't notice this because they're still in the proximity of their parents, they're still in the field. They cannot understand what the independent reality means and what that is on the level of perception. But when they're grown-ups and they become physically at least independent, now they feel very clearly that all these bits and pieces outside. They left a part of their being, of their soul, if you will, or their consciousness elsewhere. And now they start the so-called process of the spiritual search, where they are just trying to collect themselves back into one. But they still, it's not spirituality. It has become a part of spiritual process as a precondition for spiritual knowledge. Because before you collect yourself, first, and second, before you heal yourself, healing means you understand that a lot of these bits and pieces are not you, but they are the reactions which have been obtained from elsewhere or learned from elsewhere. They're part of your connection with all these different archetypes within the collective consciousness. So until you heal, there is no even any point of speaking about creation, energy, space, time, dimensions, any kind of other higher forms of spiritual knowledge, because you simply do not feel content. And anything in the external reality can simply distract you. Your failed relationships, your problems with people will simply drag you again outwards to deal with these pieces that you still haven't acknowledged. That's it.
Yes, but it is very simple. But if you see it, it is simple. But you can tell people how it is, but they don't. If they don't see it, it's impossible for them to see it.
Yeah, at the moment, for example, people are pulled into more and more fragmentation through social media, through, I'm not saying social media is bad. Nothing is good and bad, it's just there. The point is that we're not taught to be an authentic being, an authentic entity. And because all of these different pieces of this matrix, you may say, or the projected reality need our energy, just because that is how it may sustain itself. It's just natural for the matrix, for this man-made reality. And so it naturally drags or pulls our attention towards it. But we aren't taught to keep ourselves content and contained within ourselves. And that's why, especially our children or our future generations have a big problem. And this is the problem of disorientation, fragmentation, loss of attention, and literally being just lunatics. Because when our attention is too much dispersed, we start suffering mental, emotional, and eventually physical imbalances. And so if we do not understand it at this point and do not address it, then nature itself, the natural world itself, will address it, because that quality of humanity is abnormal and sort of, it will kind of, extinct itself. It will destroy itself, because the generation that cannot focus and cannot feel contained and content and wholesome within the individual. Because you see, we read in scriptures that you have to first understand what your individuality is, and then only understand yourself on other levels. But at this moment, we even have difficulty to understand ourselves on the individual level, because we have lost bits and pieces of our individuality to the projected reality, to the matrix, and we keep on feeding it consciously, subconsciously. Plus we have emotional responses, trauma of the collective, trauma of the individual. And so at this point of time, healing is the only thing we need in terms of spirituality, but yet our ambition is higher. We have developed the spiritual ambition or spiritual narcissism as a shadow side of that spiritual quest, because we don't want to face ourselves. We don't want to address our traumas, but we want spiritual knowledge. We want power without actually putting in any hard work, any effort in observing our traumas, because it's painful. We don't want to acknowledge that we are wrong, we are corrupt, we are dispersed, we are fragmented, we are attached to all kinds of aspects in the projected reality, because we are traumatized and do not have this content perception or kind of a wholesome being. Because trauma means we're dispersed. There was some type of a what is this called, impulse in our life, which was caused from the outside, that shattered, that disturbed our natural alignment. Because when we are born, we are still we start from the clean slate. We're still sort of aligned within ourselves. But after some time, being constantly dragged outside of our alignment, of our wholesome being, we start responding to the reality differently as we learn from the outside. And so it becomes naturally a traumatic response. And so then we interact with other people and with the external reality through the traumatic response. And so now we want, but our soul still wants contentment and wholesomeness. So it kind of wants spirituality, but then it starts seeing it through this dark black hole within itself, through this trauma. And obviously it starts creating a collage of corrupt spirituality, which is the spirituality of the corrupt self, of the narcissistic self, rather than the actual spirituality. And so only by healing and really observing self and dissolving this corruption, we can come to the possibility of even relating to the actual natural spirituality or to the spiritual being. Before that, we live in some kind of an illusion of spirituality. Oh, I'm going to be a part of this sermon, or I'm listening to this spiritual knowledge. Listening doesn't do anything. If it's not integrated, if it's not a part of your natural being, if it's not you, then it's all pseudo, then it's another part of your external being. It's just another projection there, because it hasn't been brought back into your own self, or become a part of your own self. So people are like, I am going to practice yoga. Well, yoga is not about practice, right? It is about being. Yes. So if you stretch your legs, or you walk, or you do something, or you don't do anything, and you are in that being, it makes sense. It makes sense, but otherwise it doesn't.
No,